we can start by just turning on one channel, and we can play the Super Mario World theme or Super Mario Brothers theme with just this one track or one voice. So you can hear how this has kind of the, I hope you can hear, turn this up a little bit maybe. You can hear how this has kind of the sense of the Mario theme, but it's not exactly in the sense you're used to, right? So if we add in the second pulse channel, you can see that hearing those two together, it's more of the kind of tone and chord and everything else like that that you're used to it sounding like. I'm going to teach you a little bit about this and show you what the music in an NES, how the music in an NES is actually made. And so we'll just start with Super Mario Bros. 1. It's a very iconic theme that many of us have probably heard before. And again, I was talking about there's basically five pieces. The PCM track is not used in this particular song. So you have 2 pulse waves, a triangle wave, and a noise wave. And if you want to hear what these sound like, right, you can kind of hear a triangle wave sounds like that, or like this. Pulse waves instead sound like this. So you got the pulse waves that are in there. You've also got all of these different instruments up here. So instruments control like how the volume works and other things like that. So you can see here that pretty much all of these notes are coming out of instrument 4, which is labeled SMB1 short lead. So the short lead here, this is the instrument. You can see that it has a 0 volume followed by a whole set of steps here, right? And so you can also see that it has this 2 duty cycle. This is basically just you can hear what the music sounds like, right? So I can do this. This is what it sounds like if I change the duty cycle to 3 instead and hit enter. You can see that it sounds a bit different. If I change it to 0, it's going to sound more tinny. If I change it back to 2, this is the kind of sound that's typical in the Mario world, right? So we've got that. So what we'll do here is actually start. And then noise is something where it just makes noise. You got a whole bunch of different noise settings. So if you've ever heard like at the beginning of Contra, where the title screen comes in and it goes, that's basically just this. So that's all that is. So let's undo that. Okay, so right now I've got all of these channels off. And we can start by just turning on one channel, and we can play the Super Mario World theme or Super Mario Brothers theme with just this one track or one voice. So you can hear how this has kind of the, I hope you can hear, turn this up a little bit maybe. You can hear how this has kind of the sense of the Mario theme, but it's not exactly in the sense you're used to, right? So if we add in the second pulse channel, you can see that hearing those two together, it's more of the kind of tone and chord and everything else like that that you're used to it sounding like. But we're still missing something, of course, right? So what we're missing is kind of that bass line beat that underlies all of this. So adding that third note in there, you're really getting the whole, chord that's going on that really gives you the sense of it. And so that do-do-do-do-do is only the triangle mixing in underneath. And without that, you don't have that same kind of beat. And then, of course, it's still really not complete. There's an additional thing here we have, which is the noise that goes with it, which is the little tings and taps that you get from it. And so another thing that you can see actually up here is that so this is the number of frames, right? So these frames up here basically allow you to reuse parts of the music. And so you can see that although there are 9 different frames that combine these different things together to kind of do the complete loop, there's only 4 different main beat frames, or 3 or 1 or whatever else like that. So it's the same noise over and over. And so the noise only has 0 and 1 frame, and it uses those over and over. So if we turn off all of these, except for the noise, we've got this noise section, this noise frame, and then the other one we've got is this one. So you can hear that there's kind of these two different things, and they are able to reuse these. And then I guess there's actually a third one, which is here, which is kind of the opposite of that first one. So, yeah, so we could speed it up if we wanted to. So we could make this, 220 and play through it. And most likely, this is how the sped up version of the songs worked, is basically they just, put in a trigger that speeds it up. 255 as high as it goes, but we can actually turn this down even further. Anyway, so we don't really want to leave it that way, but that's a fine thing to do. And then the other thing we can do is we can talk about looking at Super Mario Brothers 3. So Super Mario Brothers 3 is a track that actually uses that digital PCM sound. Basically, if we look at this channel here, right? So we've got channel OB. So if we go over here, OB, hexadecimal, edit this. And so what we can see here, oh, sorry, you all went away. 1 second, I'm bringing you back up. So what we can see here is that these are all just various sounds that have been stored into the device. So each of these is a short little wave file that makes different noises. And of course, on a cartridge, you had very little space. So at least in NSF, in this tracker software, you have the ability to use, up to 256 kilobytes of data. But on an NES cartridge, 256 kilobytes was a massive amount of data. So PCM is, I don't know off the top of my head, PCM audio, pulse code modulation. So it's a way to digitally represent sampled audio signals. So it's the standard form of basically wave files. These are basically wave files. So PCM is like wave files are PCM files. So yeah, so we can listen to just this PCM channel. And this is basically like there's 4 kilobytes worth of data that is stored in these bytes, and you can see it's adding something interesting to it that you couldn't just do with the noise channel, because the noise channel is limited in the noises it can make. So now we'll go the same route as we did again. So we'll start with the pulse channel and go all the way across, kind of listening to these, right? So this is Super Mario Brothers 3 World 1, the general like outer world stage. And again, this is going to sound very odd because this isn't how we normally hear it. We hear it together with this. So you can see that they're kind of they're not moving exactly together. They're moving kind of in counterpoints and everything else like that. And as we add in the triangle, we start to get more of that feel. And then we can add in the noise channel. And now it's pretty close. I think if you had this, you wouldn't argue. But when you toss in this last little bit here, you get some of what makes the Mario 3 sound a little bit deeper than the Mario 1 sound, is those things like the boo-boom that is a PCM sample stored that you wouldn't get any other way. So that's cool. These are the 5 channels that you have on the stock NES. But one of the things that I mentioned earlier is actually that so if we look at like Zelda, right? Zelda's going to have, use the same kind of 4 channels. And one thing you'll actually note here is that these signals here are FX signals, and basically what they're saying in Famitracker is do a vibrato. So this is an A sharp followed by a fast vibrato through back and forth through 2 steps up to this point. So when you hear this kind of A sharp noise, if we just go with this channel, you'll hear the A sharp noise, and you can hear this kind of wobble to the to that first note. And so that wobble is in Famitracker is expressed as this FX. And there's actually a whole bunch of different effects that you can use. And so, you know, if we look at the effect list, we've got, you know, arpeggios and slides and vibratos and tremolos and volume slides and skipping to next frame and hardware sweeps and all kinds of things like that, right? So these are all different tools that you can use in Famitracker to kind of control, and these would have all been things that were done in different ways with the actual hardware. I don't know a lot about that side of things, but that's how they're represented here. So we've got, again, this single pulse channel. And I think this is one where I think it really, this kind of opening theme, again, that first pulse channel would give you those opening notes in a way that you would recognize and have no problem with. And if you were to play this as a beginner on the piano, just looking to play the Zelda theme for the first time, that set of notes would be the, you know, plunking out on the piano, the, you know, notes would be how you might do that. Hello. But then we can add in this second channel, and you get the additional notes in there. And then we can add in the bass channel. Oh, sorry. There you go. Now, I actually want to go back here for a second. I think, so which channel, this is something I keep finding it myself doing, right? I come to one of these things and I'm like, so how did they just produce that sound? So I want to know what that, yeah, so that was these notes right here. So that's just like going up. What is this G? I'm going to quickly pull up. So the G effect is a note delay. So basically it's delaying right off of the beat. So these are basically 16th notes all the way along. And by having this G in here, you're delaying it a little bit. You're putting a gap in there. And so, yeah, so we've got that. And so again, we can go back to listening to this whole thing, and you've got that bass, you've got the nice, you know, kind of sweep up. You've got the same noise level. You see all the way along here, all of these frames use the same noise channel. And then at the very end, we actually see that we, you know, have all these different bits that are a little bit different, a little bit of variety. And when we get to the end here, at the end of that soundtrack, before it loops around again, it actually goes back to something that you heard 7 frames ago. And so yeah, so that's it. But the other thing I wanted to mention is, like I said, the Famicom actually had a better sound system. In particular, this FDS sound device here is a way that you can describe waveforms. And so these waveforms are basically anywhere along here, you can control which, you know, of these things, instead of it being a kind of standard 8 note octave or other things like that, you can spread around the space. Hello, Vlogging with Brandy. And so you can hear that this is like not a normal, you know, thing, but is not following a sine wave or a triangle wave or a sawtooth wave, but is instead got this kind of weird shape that kind of describes it. And so those were storable on the FDS, the Famicom disk system, and could be loaded that way. And so here we hear what the Zelda game would have sounded like if you were playing it on FDS, I think. And if we take out this FDS sound, you can actually hear a lot of what that is adding for us. So we'll actually go right back to the beginning and just listen to it without that last sound. Well, we'll try and go right back to the beginning. Oh, right. And so it's clear that they took a very different approach with the sound, even in the primary channels. but this FDS channel really does add that something extra, the bell tolling sounds and other things like that as part of this. So. So that it's that counterpoint, kind of answering each of the you know, primary noises is in there. Hey, Jack Mulligan. And that kind of warbly sound is something that you're not able to get with the other types of sounds that you got. So then I think GGC was actually talking about Castlevania. So just give me 1 second. It was this one. Okay. So yeah, compare that to this. And you can hear that there's just so much left. Oh yeah, it's actually right, even linked right here. And so this is a very different, you know, feel for the soundtrack compared to the other one. And so yeah, so these are two very different sounds. And a lot of that ends up coming from, so the number of additional voices here is actually pretty small. You've got the 2 pulse, the triangle, the noise, the DPCM like you already have, and the VRC6 added 2 additional pulse channels. And a sawtooth channel. And the sawtooth channel makes noises like this. So the sawtooth channel you can actually see in the, oh, sorry, you can't see anything. Okay, so yeah, you can see here that we've got the 2 pulse, the triangle, the noise, the PCM like we expect from the NES, and then the VRC6 adds these 2 pulse channels and a sawtooth. And if we edit one of these instruments, what we'll actually see is that they have this additional feature of pulse width. So we'll look at like a crescendo, and so this is here, but the pulse width is another feature that they have that allows you to kind of change the features of these instruments. And so yeah, so Dracula's Curse was the name of Castlevania 3, I think, I don't know, something like that. So we're gonna play this song, and this is gonna be a VRC6 song. We'll turn off the additional channels first, and just play it like this, and then we'll add them in a second. So this is just something that an NES could have done. And then we can add in these other 3 channels. So you can see with the VRC6, even on this kind of antique hardware that was available in the Famicom and in Japan, you're able to create these super impressive sounds. But on the NES version, you didn't have support for expansion chips, and so that was more of a problem. So now that we've kind of got an idea of yeah, I don't have anything handy, so I'm just going through these. So now that we've got an idea of how this music is created, we're gonna take some time right now, and I'm gonna show you how I can, you know, sit down here, and using Famitracker, I can just, you know, compose some music. So we're gonna do, you know, so one of the tunes that I always try and play whenever I sit down in front of a piano or something else like that, is the Final Fantasy victory theme, which is, you know, a thing. And so we're gonna try and do that right here, and generate a chiptune version of the FF8 victory theme right now. So we'll go into edit mode. That is correct. I am a giant nerd. All right, so we're gonna go into edit mode, and we're going to, you know, type out some. Well, first we'll add an instrument. So we'll, you know, edit this instrument, and we'll just make it, you know, kind of this decreasing crescendo of sound. So 15, 15, 13. This is basically describing the shape the waveform will take. And so I'm imagining this as a fall off of a piano or something like that. Important to have a 0 at the end, because otherwise the sound will just keep making noise forever. So this actually has it stop. So we'll do that. And we've got that saved. So now if we press this key, you can see that it kind of goes through that range. So, you know, if you press a piano key, it kind of fades out after you press it. And so that's the same thing we're going to do here. Hello, Kyle Davis. So we're going to do, like I said, the victory theme, which is, so these are each 16th notes. We're going to do 3 8th notes that are a D. And then a quarter note, which is a D. 2, 3, 4. Now that we've got that quarter note in there, we're going to toss in an A sharp, which is, there we go. And that's another quarter note, so we'll leave a gap of 3. Toss in our C here. And I believe that's an 8th note, and so we'll toss in another D, C, D. So if we play this... All right, so that last C was clearly not correct. It was too close. So we'll take this, cut it out, put it down 2 more steps, and there we go. All right, so that seems to me like that's a pretty nice little, you know, representation of the Final Fantasy fanfare, you know, victory sound. It's not perfect by any means, but you know, it's close enough for government work. You kind of get the sense of what it is. But we also want to kind of add in, you know, more than just those instruments. So we'll add in our bass line here. So we'll add that here. And now we'll kind of just match these last notes as well, but an octave lower. So C, and then D, D, D. So if we play this, we're gonna get something that sounds a little bit like what we had before, and flip into a different but with a bass line. And now I'm gonna think of this and I'm like, you know, I don't really dig the kind of very tinny noise, so we're gonna turn on this duty noise cycle control in our instrument, which is gonna change how our pitch sounds, right? Compare that to this. So I don't really like that kind of sharp noise, so we'll do this, and play this. And now we'll try this again. And that is totally fine for me. I think that is a perfectly reasonable tone. I can take this right now. I can create a WAV file and say, you know, go ahead and call this FF8, you know, demo, and put this in my, you know, documents folder. All right. So now what we're going to do is we've created this file. And in addition to just, you know, creating it, we want to use it for something, right? So what do we want to use it for? Well, what do I use this for right now? I use this for live stream alerts, right? So if I go here, I'm going to take my fan funding alert. I'm going to upload a new file, choose this from my documents, which is going to be FF8 demo. And this is a sound, submit that, upload that file right now. And now I can take this, and add FF8 demo as my alert. Test this, and we should get an alert here in just a second. Oh, you can't see the alert, so we'll pull this back up.
Test donation from LeFestream Alerts.
LeFestream Alerts, the best alerting system out there. So we'll pull this up again just so you can see it.
Test donation from LeFestream Alerts.
Okay, so that WAV file clearly has a little bit of sound at the end of it that I wouldn't want to keep for forever, but you know, it makes do. And I can of course also use this for my Extra Life donations and other things like that. So if anyone wanted to click the link, ooh, I'm sorry, hold on. Let me swap back to the browser here. So if anyone wanted to donate to you know, my live stream or my my Extra Life account or to I'm Raising, they would all use the same you know, sound. So there you go. Okay. So there we go. We have successfully tracked a quick chiptune here in Famitracker. So we can save our track here, FF8 demo. And I can also share some of the other things that I've done. So you can look at London Bridge. I even added that little noise there at the end. As I was showing you earlier, you can just, kind of add noises. And then, of course, you could do Happy Birthday. By the way, hello, Mr. James Baker. So some of you might be saying like, well, that's weird. This one makes a really weird noise with each of the notes. And so this is actually an arpeggio. What's actually going on here is instead of each of these being one note, what you're seeing is it actually scrolls through up to 8 notes after that. And I could just make this do like 2. Which gives you a little bit more flavor. And this is actually a way that sometimes chords were represented, is that you would have, if you had a note that you wanted to kind of add 2 notes to it to kind of play them both as if they were happening at the same time, you could do that. In this case, I could just do nothing or turn this off entirely, and it's going to sound like a normal note. And so now we're back to Happy Birthday sounding more normal. So this is very much like a Happy Birthday song you might hear a kid play on their little Yamaha synthesizer or something else like that. And there's no coincidence in that. Most of the chips used in these early things were just synthesizer chips. Yamaha and Ricoh were makers of synthesizer chips. The Sound Blaster was actually, a 9-voice channel that could do all these different things, that was very much the same as a traditional, Yamaha synthesizer. And so, I'll flip back here real quick to, a demo of this is how the Commodore 64 did sound. So the Commodore 64 only had 3 voices, but as you'll see, you could do a little bit more with them. So this is a pretty normal demo of like a run-of-the-mill game. You got a triangle on the bottom, a noise in the middle, and then at the top you're going to have a square wave. And this is again from that 8-Bit Guy video.
But not long after, some clever programmers realized that it was possible to dynamically reassign the voices to other waveforms on the fly. This gave the illusion of having more than 3 voices. Take this example from Commando.
And so what you can actually see here, or can't see necessarily, is there's a lot of variations here where they're changing voices as they change notes.
In order to better understand what's going on here, try listening to one voice at a time.
So you can see there that they were using the PCM square wave as well as switching to like noise waves and other things like that. And the same thing there. So you got the PCM wave with the mixed noise in there, and you get these kind of very complex overlapping sound effects. And the Sound Blaster was effectively the same thing. When you switched to the Sound Blaster, you had other things like that you had 9 channels, 9 voices, and the ability to change them dynamically. And of course, you don't have to just have simple notes. As I was showing you earlier, you have these effects. So this is a relatively simple thing. There's basically only 2 notes in this piece, plus a bunch of noise at the end. But through the use of these effects in Famitracker, I'm able to do something kind of cool. So basically, this is a C with a 4. Or a relatively slow, high variance vibrato. So it's basically scrolling all the way through this range of notes from C all the way up and back down. I can also slow this down, and it's going to sound a little bit different. And then this is just or we could speed it up, and it would sound different in a different direction. And then the last thing you can see here is that this noise, every one of these channels will continue making whatever noise you assign to it last until you are tell it to stop. And so this is like a blank note, and I'm telling it to stop its vibrato, and this is a blank note to say like a stop note. And the same thing is true here with our noise channels. So yeah, so that's what I've got. So we've got, you know, all kinds of things that you can listen to. You could look at the difference between, you know, for example, the Starman theme on Super Mario 1. Why did that get sped up so much? Not sure if that was me. See if we can. There we go. So you've got that, and then if you open the SMB3 version of the same track, and I don't know if these are pulled directly from the things or if this is like someone recreating them afterwards. But in any case, they're pretty accurate to the originals. Invincible, it's called, I think. There we go. You can see that there's actually this DPCM channel that adds a little bit to it. But the DPCM channel doesn't actually change the sound in the way that, you know, for the most part. Like, this DPCM channel does actually add something to it. You can hear what it adds, actually. But that's not actually why it changes. What's different primarily between these two is that the Super Mario 3 one uses a different duty cycle for the PCM waves. So if we go to the Starman here, this number 18, you see that we're using instrument 4. So if we edit instrument 4, we can see that the duty noise cycle here was set to 2, which has a certain type of sound. And if we go to the invincibility level, or invincibility track from Super Mario Bros. 3, we can see it's using instrument 6. If we look at instrument 6, we can see that this is using a duty cycle of 0 and then 1. So if we play this track, and we'll leave the DPCM out just to remove that confusion. So we listen to this. If we edit this instrument, and we take this and make it 2 instead, now it sounds much more like Super Mario Bros. 1. We go back to this, and we can kind of change a lot of the sound by changing these duty cycles. And so you can kind of mix all this in and see that there's a lot of different variation you could get out of these synthesizers. So if you look at the, or just turn it off entirely, and so if you look at these synthesizers, the ones that have like the harpsichord button and the everything else like that, the primary things that they're doing is changing properties like this of the instrument tracks on their things. So they compose these instruments that are you know, able to sound like a harpsichord, and the way they do that is by changing various pretty minor oh, you couldn't tell the difference? Oh. So, well, we'll set it again. So this has the more kind of boop, 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 like the boopy sound to me. But yeah, so yes, the music system of the SNES is probably not actually that different. I didn't look into it specifically, but I wouldn't be surprised. So yeah, before we go, we'll pull up one more demo song that comes with Famitracker. These tracks are clearly like labors of love by some pretty cool people. So we'll pull up one that you could do on the NES. So this is going to be something that if you wanted to make this happen on the NES, you could, just listening to the default bits here. So this is a soundtrack that, with sufficient work, now admittedly, some of these things are pretty big and wouldn't have fit easily on an NES cartridge. Oh yeah, well, so that's one more thing I didn't actually talk talk about, right? So if we add a new instrument and we edit it, and we're going to pull in a DPCM sample, and we're going to import. Let's set. I wonder if I can import this. Yeah. So this is a song that I actually used in my live stream alerts demo, and I can import this wave. And I can only pull in a little bit of it, but you can hear that. And so now I can add this key, add this to the C key, and now I can do that. And if I wanted to, I can I'll just make a new track. Nope. I want to make a new instrument. I want to edit it. I want to go to DPCM. I want to import a wave. I'm going to pull in this, preview it. Yep. So that pulls in three kilobytes of my space that I can use. I can bump this over here to a C. And now I can, add a key here. And add my C here. So if I play through this, you'll hear, I'm going to put a note stop here. So yeah, I'm able to do kind of thing. So there's 4 tracks, 4 voices. Yeah, so there's only 4 voices in the NES. There's 2 pulse waves, a triangle wave, a noise, which just sounds like this. And yeah, so these are all things that you could do. People had to redo the physical chip and software so the sounds were hard-coded. Yep. Yeah, so a lot of these things are basically just flipping registers of a sound chip, right? So you flip the right number, you send the right number of binary pieces to a Ricoh 2A03 chip, and this is what you get. So anyway, Mighty, you missed it, so I will play back the thing that I composed right here on the spot for us is now my donation sound alert, and it sounds like this. Which is not exactly the most true to form FF8 fanfare ever, but it's not bad, and so I'm gonna run with it. Anyway, so I hope this has given you a little bit of insight into the world of NES music. Since I've been playing with this all weekend, I was really excited. There's a bunch of tutorials out there on YouTube. Check out the 8-Bit Guy video, which I will link right now and add to the description below after the stream. If you have not seen it, the 8-Bit Guy video is super cool on a whole bunch of things, and these kind of multiple voice bits was basically how a lot of music in the early days worked. Everything up through your ad-lib and Sound Blaster was a lot of the same thing. The ability to do more samples, to do more things, but overall, these multiple voice, digital channels is just how sound worked. And I have no idea how modern sound works. That's totally beyond me. We could talk MP3s and compression some other day. But in the meantime, this was your learning exercise for the day. I am the Chris who plays games, and this is the CPG show. And I hope you all have a lovely, enjoy the rest of the night.